The story begins with the protagonist waking up to someone calling out to him, asking him to sign something. It's the concubine Kai, daughter of the Prime Minister Kai Chun, who insists that the protagonist sign a document. He wakes up surprised by the beautiful sight, and the girl keeps insisting that if he doesn't sign, it will be too late. She gets too close to the protagonist, promising that her father will help him restore peace and fix all their messes. The boy looks at the imperial decree. That's when he realizes he has just traveled back in time, reincarnating in the 27th year of the Wei Kingdom as Emperor Ye Li. Suddenly, he grabs the girl by the waist. He lifts her up, amazed to have traveled back in time now as an emperor. He is thrilled to have the chance to enjoy 3,000 beautiful women at his disposal, mentally bidding farewell to his lovely elder sister. The girl, slightly annoyed, asks again about the decree. He looks at it, analyzing whether he should really cede Ziliang to the Xiongnu and send a princess for marriage. Then he refuses to sign and says that trying to seduce him won't work, while giving her a playful slap on her bubble butt. He declares that his empire doesn't cede land or pay tributes to anyone, and if she thinks he'll hand over territory or send princesses, she must be dreaming. But internally, we see the protagonist imagining making all his concubines wear black stockings and unifying the world. The girl thinks he wasn't like this before, and wonders how he suddenly has so much courage. She then declares that since he refused, she'll end the life of this useless emperor. When a group of guards arrives at the scene, she says that once the protagonist signs, she'll fake his death, leaving a will naming her father, the Prime Minister, as regent. The conspirators prepare to attack, shouting that the Prime Minister should become the new regent. The protagonist watches the scene, saying they should wait because he hasn't had the chance to experience his first pleasure yet, when suddenly a sword is thrown. It hits one of the conspirators, and a woman appears, shouting how a demonic concubine dares to threaten the emperor's life. It's Su Xinjai, an imperial bodyguard and the #1 specialist. She has protected Ye Li from several assassination attempts, but due to the repeated provocations of concubine Kai, the original Ye Li was cold and indifferent toward her. The protagonist is amazed at the sight of Xinjai, thinking the original owner of that body was blind and clueless. The concubine asks how she's there when she clearly sent someone to lure her out of the capital. Xinjai replies, asking if she really thinks second-rate assassins could stop her. Being the opportunist he is, the protagonist clings to Xinjai, praising her unparalleled skills. She breaks free from his embrace as he makes a heart gesture with his hands, thinking he'll treat her well, which gives her chills. She ignores him and declares that concubine Kai has committed treason, presenting clear evidence, and orders her to surrender. Kai approaches, saying she doesn't believe Xinjai alone can stop all of them. That's when someone enters, asking if Kai would stand a chance if he joined the fight on Xinjai's side. It's Xia Yang, the commander of the Imperial Guard, one of the only 2 loyal officers left on Ye Li's side, and someone trustworthy. The commander kneels, apologizing for being late to protect the emperor, but the protagonist helps him up, saying he arrived just in time to deal with this demonic concubine. The girl finds herself cornered. She leaps toward the protagonist, claiming she hasn't lost, shocking Ye Li as her second form emerges, tearing through her clothes. She screams that the protagonist will die. This prompts the 2 Imperial Guardians to step forward to protect their emperor. The concubine declares that Xinjai has fallen into her trap and will also die, revealing everything. Xinjai senses someone's presence. It's the super-buffed protagonist grabbing the concubine by the arm and throwing her to the ground, declaring that no one messes with his people, and that from now on, he'll protect Xinjai. But of course, my friends, that was just his imagination. In reality, he was just clinging to the girl's leg as she tried to shake him off while he imagined the scene. However, Xinjai was genuinely moved, as Ye Li was usually timid and cowardly, hiding under a table by now, but he tried to protect her. Kai then turns to execute the protagonist, while Xinjai orders the Imperial Guards to arrest the traitors. And then we see the concubine pinned to the ground with a pair of guards, alongside the other traitors. General Yang reports that all the rebels have been captured and await further orders. The protagonist, on the other hand, thinks these guards are too formal and that the original emperor's cowardice made things awful. He declares that he'll reward everyone who protected him, making his subordinates suspicious since the original emperor was never this kind. Ye Li is picking his nose when the concubine starts calling him Your Majesty, claiming she was just joking and asking him not to take it seriously. She then starts saying he's her husband and that she would never harm him, begging to be freed because she's scared. She approaches him, asking him to comfort her while he struggles to resist. With a cute look, she asks what he thinks and begs to be untied. Ye Li is trying to hold himself back as she throws herself into his arms, which he doesn't seem to mind one bit. She promises that if he helps her, she'll do anything he wants, leaving Ye Li blushing, while the general declares that he'll get rid of this wicked woman. Kai confidently claims that the emperor would never let anyone harm her, but the MC simply strikes her, sending her spinning through the air. In true JoJo style, Ye Li orders that this venomous woman be imprisoned under heavy guard. He says he isn't a fool, calls her arrogant, and warns her that she'll face the consequences. Even the general wonders if this is truly the same emperor. He then commands that all rebels be cleared out of the palace, and that no one is allowed to enter or leave without his permission. Meanwhile, Kai screams in the background, protesting. Kai Chun, the prime minister and Kai's father, wields significant power over the court and harbors many ill intentions. Deep in thought, Ye Li realizes that now that he's in this world, he must survive at all costs. No matter how hard it gets, he's determined to press on, or he'll meet his end. But his seriousness vanishes when he starts fantasizing about acquiring many girls, stealing a glance at Shinjai, who begins to draw her sword. He quickly shifts focus, apologizing to her for having distanced himself from loyal people and trusting the wrong ones. Then, he nervously asks what reward she desires for saving him, worrying internally that if she finds out he's taken over the emperor's body, she might kill him. She sheathes her sword and replies that she needs no reward, as it was her duty. She warns him that if he truly wants to change his ways, he must address the current situation immediately. The Turks are pressing them. The court is full of treacherous ministers. Kai has rebelled, and worse may come. But the MC is distracted, focusing on something else entirely. Taking her hand, he asks if she still trusts him, and says that with her help, he knows many ways to eliminate Kai Chun. She snaps Ye Li out of his thoughts, reminding him that due to his years of indulgence, Kai Chun has amassed immense power, making his downfall no easy task. Not believing him, she agrees to a bet. If he eliminates the treacherous factions led by Kai Chun, restores imperial authority, and brings peace back to the empire, she will marry him and become his empress. She thinks it's impossible for him to succeed. Then, she sets 3 conditions. 1. He must diligently handle state affairs, avoid alcohol and brothels, and abstain from all forms of debauchery. 2. He must heed advice, understand the situation clearly, and distinguish between loyal and treacherous ministers. 3. He must train in martial arts. Ye Li agrees to everything, so long as she becomes his empress. She solemnly swears by her sword that she will fulfill her end of the bet. Then, she slaps him, warning that until the bet is fulfilled, he is not to try anything with her. Otherwise, he'll face severe consequences. However, the MC seems to enjoy the slap a little too much, perhaps revealing a masochistic streak. Face stinging, he promises to behave. She helps him to his feet, asking what kind of help he needs. Leaning close to her ear, he whispers his plan. The next day, the MC is being reverently greeted by his ministers. He orders everyone to rise, thinking how amazing it is to be an emperor. One minister speaks up, saying he has an important matter to report. It's none other than Prime Minister Kai Chun, demanding to know what heinous crime his daughter has committed to warrant imprisonment in the death corridor. Shinjai watches silently to see how the emperor will respond. The MC calmly asks the minister if he's unaware that his daughter tried to assassinate him as part of a rebellion. Confident that Ye Li will crumble under pressure, Kai Chun insists that his daughter is loyal to the empire and accuses the emperor of being misled by malicious individuals. But Ye Li retorts, asking if the minister is implying that he falsely accused his daughter. Kai Chun grows indignant at the emperor's tone, and the other ministers wonder if this is truly the same man, while Shinjai remains impressed. Carefully, Kai Chun denies any intent to accuse the emperor, but suggests the incident is suspicious and calls for an investigation, rallying the support of the other ministers. Since Ye Li has forbidden anyone from entering or leaving the palace without his permission, he knows no one can escape. The Minister of Justice, Zhou Tang, tries to defend Kai Chun's daughter, speculating that she might have been coerced into rebellion. Ye Li asks Zhou whom he believes is the true culprit. Zhou responds that everyone on duty last night should be interrogated. He begins pointing fingers, first at the Imperial Guard commander, then at Shinjai, and just as he moves to accuse someone else, the Emperor punches him squarely in the face, knocking out one of his teeth. The MC asks how he dares to slander his trusted guards who always protect him from assassinations, while the Prime Minister finds it absurd, saying that assaulting a minister in court is against the rules. but the emperor retorts that he makes the rules. Shinjai and Commander Yang are surprised, thinking the emperor is doing all this to protect them. Minister Zhou then starts calling the emperor a tyrant. The MC asks if Kai heard what Zhou said and declares that for disrespecting the throne and the emperor, he will face the consequences. He then orders the guards to arrest Zhou Tang immediately for execution, thinking that Zhou sealed his fate by disrespecting him, and now even Prime Minister Kai's dogs can't help him. Meanwhile, Zhou pleads for Minister Kai's help, but Kai says Zhou deserved this punishment for insulting the emperor. The emperor orders Zhou to be taken away immediately, while Kai reflects that the emperor has become difficult to handle. Zhou is a trusted ally, and if Kai doesn't act soon, his power will weaken. He tries to persuade the MC, saying that while Zhou Tang disrespected the emperor, he has served in court for over 10 years. Executing him could cause resentment among the other ministers, and Kai asks for leniency, promising to handle the situation himself. Kai feels confident, thinking the emperor won't go against his suggestion. But the MC asks how much Kai's face is worth and orders him to remain silent. Since Zhou Tang insulted the emperor, this execution is justified and reasonable. Kai then suggests letting the civil and military authorities vote on Zhou's fate. If at least one person agrees Zhou deserves death, he won't oppose it. Otherwise, the emperor must withdraw the execution order. Shinjai thinks she must intervene since this is a trap. The entire court supports Kai. However, the emperor agrees to the vote and asks the ministers. As expected, all the ministers oppose the execution, thinking the inexperienced emperor has fallen into Kai's trap. The MC realizes the vote was one-sided, and that, to protect himself, Kai Chun must die. Kai confirms no one supported the execution, so the emperor must cancel it. At that moment, the MC claps his hands, signaling someone to enter. Kai is shocked, realizing this is bad. Other ministers enter, shouting that Zhou Tang deserves death for disrespecting the emperor. The rest recognize these men as the ministers who angered the emperor and were imprisoned: the Grand Commander, the Imperial Guard General, and the Grand Historian. The emperor announces that he investigated them, found them innocent, and reintegrates them into their positions. Kai, deep in thought, realizes they are his enemies. The MC reflects that the previous emperor was foolish to torture loyal officials. Shinjai recalls how the emperor had asked her the day before to release the ministers during the court session. She sees that he has truly changed. The MC approaches the prime minister and asks whether Zhou Tang should now die or not. Furious, Kai tells him to do as he pleases, but warns that the Wei dynasty is in a precarious position, and acting recklessly could be dangerous. Kai leaves, realizing that pushing further will worsen things. He wonders how the emperor managed to hide his strength all this time, and admits he underestimated him. Meanwhile, the MC feels proud, knowing he has thousands of years of historical knowledge in his mind, and thinking Kai is too young to compete with him. As Zhou Tang is taken to prison, he begs the prime minister not to abandon him. The other ministers, desperate to leave, start claiming they are sick and unwell, asking to be excused. The MC suspects they are trying to blackmail him for Kai Chun. The MC orders the guards to remove all the ministers, ensuring none of them return until fully cured, no matter how long it takes. Turning to his loyal servants, he says he will deal with them now. Shinjai warns the MC that these ministers handle various matters, and removing them could plunge the empire into chaos. But the MC responds that Kai is trying to paralyze the imperial court to force him to yield. However, this is a golden opportunity to promote his own people and regain power. He bows to his loyal ministers, admitting he was wrong before. He pledges to start anew, govern diligently, and asks for their help. This pleases them, and they all agree to assist him. As they bow in respect, the MC declares that from now on, they will work together to eliminate Kai Chun and his ambitious dogs. He orders all documents to be brought in, yet when the MC sees the massive workload, he is shocked. After finishing the work, he dismisses his ministers, acknowledging their hard work. He reflects on how exhausting being emperor is, but feels it was worth it now that he has reliable people by his side. Thanks to Kai, he has gained his first real power. The MC becomes cheerful, thinking it's finally time to meet his dear Shinjai. Just then, someone interrupts, reporting that Princess Nanyang refused to marry the Turks and attempted suicide, but was saved. Frustrated, he realizes he still can't rest. At the Zhao mansion, a man begs the emperor to choose someone else for the marriage, citing the late general's wishes. The princess tried to take her life, but the MC replies that he didn't come to force her to marry. It was concubine Kai Fei, currently on death row, who proposed the marriage. He asks where the princess is, saying he will calm her down. The man warns she is unconscious and in poor condition. Concerned, the MC knows Princess Nanyang is the sole descendant of General Zhao, the founding hero. If she dies, the Zhao family will resent him forever. This is Princess Nanyang, Zhao Jianjia, a childhood friend of the real emperor, nicknamed Zhir by him. The MC is captivated by her beauty and wonders how anyone could send such a stunning woman to marry the Turks. When the princess sees the emperor, she orders him to leave. He calls her Zhir, assuring her not to be afraid, that he is there to see her, and promises not to come closer if it scares her. He asks her to let the doctors examine her. She wonders why he is calling her by her nickname. Then she shouts that he is not the emperor, leaving the MC stunned. Worried, he asks why he isn't the emperor. She responds that the emperor is forcing her to marry a barbarian, that her beloved brother, who swore to protect her, has disappeared, and that the emperor is a monster without salvation. This leaves the MC relieved. The princess runs off crying. The servant panics, thinking she might try to do that again, while she declares that she will never let her Zhao family be humiliated by a barbarian. Then the emperor holds her in a hug, calling her by her childhood nickname. He says that she is his most precious treasure, and that he will not allow her to marry a foreigner, even if it leads to war. He explains that a sovereign must protect his borders, and that a king must be willing to die for his country, that this is how he will rule. Tearing up, the princess asks if he is truly serious. The MC says he knows she is upset and is leaving, but he pleads with her to take care of herself. He lifts her into his arms, saying she must consult the imperial doctor, eat properly, and take care of herself. He places her on her bed and orders the servant to protect the princess at all costs before leaving. Once in his quarters, Commander Yang asks the MC if he managed to calm the princess. The emperor tells him to relax, as he has already found a solution. Xinjai asks what the solution is. The emperor notes that, according to the documents, the barbarians are divided into 3 tribes, a Khan and 2 princes. Publicly, they maintain decent relations, but secretly, they harbor resentment toward each other. However, Xinjai points out that the Khan is powerful, has subdued the 2 princes, and that King Zuoxian, dissatisfied with his fief, has taken no action. Moreover, King Yuxian has been completely bribed by the Khan. But the MC remarks that Zuoxian remains dissatisfied, and since they are not united, believes the enemy of his enemy could be his friend, identifying a potential opening. She asks if he plans to sow discord. He responds that there are no eternal relationships, only interests, and if they can win over a faction within the Khanate and use its power, they might temporarily resolve the crisis. The MC wants to meet with King Yuxian, win him over, control him, and stabilize the situation. Xinjai says they must send a capable emissary with extraordinary courage and debating skills. Then Captain Yang asks if the emperor remembers Beely, the troublemaker from the capital. He suggests Beely might be of help since he is eloquent, fearless, and daring, exactly what the emperor needs. Yang even mentions that the court has invited Beely 3 times, but he refused each time and brags about preferring to drink and write in alleys rather than serve the emperor. Ye Li says that the more talented someone is, the more temperamental they are, and orders them to find him because he needs to see him. He insists this mission be confidential since Kai Chun cannot know about it. As Commander Yang leaves, the MC wonders why he seems so happy. Then he turns and leaps towards Xinjai, thinking he can finally hug and kiss her, inviting her to have tea and a relaxing bath together. She flicks his forehead and dismisses the tea, saying it's time for him to train in martial arts. During training, she scolds the emperor to wake up and focus. He brags that it's too easy while catching the blade between his fingers. He tosses Xinjai's sword into the air, causing her to stumble into him. She falls on top of him, blushing furiously and apologizing. The MC suddenly switches to an attacker, but as usual, Ye Li is only daydreaming. She asks what he's thinking about, flustering him. He says it's nothing and suggests they return to training, asking her to teach him how to use a sword. Xinjai explains that he cannot learn swordsmanship before mastering the basics. The first step is establishing a solid foundation for endurance, strength, and other fundamentals. Every beginning is hard, but martial arts can protect him, and even if she isn't around, he will be able to protect himself. Shocked, the MC asks what she means by, if she isn't around. He reminds her of their bet and says she has to fulfill the agreement, thinking he can't afford to lose a wife like her. She responds that she was just speaking hypothetically, and tells him to focus on his stance since his lower body is still unstable, all while he complains about the pain. She chuckles at the situation. Then she promises she will always be there for him. This excites the MC. When he turns to her, he notices her enormous peaches and declares that this is true happiness. Shinjai, noticing the emperor, asks if he's okay since his nose is bleeding. He assures her that he is fine.